Well, hey guys, welcome to today's video. As you all are very aware, summer is here. It is hot, and the name of the game every day in the nursery is keeping everything watered. And sometimes when we get to this point in the year when it's this hot every day, and where I am, we're around 96 to 99 degrees every day, heat index 106, 109, 111, somewhere in that range. It requires more than a simple morning watering, and you just have to pay attention to your plants in the afternoon every day. So that's a lot of what's going on in the nursery this time of year, is simply keeping everything watered. But one thing that we have to make sure that we're very aware of is, for all the heat and some of the problems potentially that it brings, it's also an incredible opportunity, because when really hot weather meets lots of water and nutrient-rich potting soil, your plants grow really fast. So what I want to show you today is just a couple of updates on some things that we're growing, and show you how they've progressed in the last few weeks and few months, and see what you might expect as far as growth rates grow in a nursery, and kind of how to think about how long does it take this plant to get this big and that sort of thing. So let's jump in here and let's look at a couple of plants today. Now, one of the plants that I wanted to show y'all is the emerald green Arborvada. Now, I mention the emerald greens from time to time. We talk about green giant Arborvadas a lot, but this is one I wanted to show you in particular, and mainly because back in probably late February or so, when I was potting these up into these pots, I showed y'all that a little bit and about what size they were, and these were about this size at that time. So from the beginning of spring, late winter, early spring, they have, grown from this to this, and that's more than doubled in size. It probably hasn't quite doubled in height, but as far as being full and being thick goes, it's more than doubled. And this is a fantastic looking plant. And I've got, I don't know, 350 or so of these. They're ready to sell now. People aren't buying a lot of plants now, but going into late summer into early fall, I think we'll be able to sell virtually all of these that we have, and they just look absolutely outstanding. This isn't the biggest one or the smallest one that we have, but it's a great representation of how these have grown. And for a slow growing evergreen, which these are, these don't grow fast. For a slow growing evergreen, I really could not be any more pleased with this. Combination of lots of heat, lots of water, and a good dose of slow release fertilizer. So these are going to grow a lot more in the next 2 or 3 months of the growing season. So all they're going to do is get bigger and get more valuable with time. So that's a great combination. I'm glad this is working out as well as it is, and I just wanted you to see kind of what's going on with these. Now, one of the other plants I wanted to show you is a perennial, and this is a Veronica or Speedwell, depending on what you call it in your neck of the woods. But as you can see, these are, finished perennials. They look really nice, and they're actually, a couple of weeks past their peak, really, but they're still blooming very nicely. And the reason I wanted to show you these is because something that I get asked a lot. We talk about it in Nursery U a lot, and the question comes up in my YouTube comments a lot, and people want to know, how long does it take a plant to get this size? Well, I buy these in as 72 count plugs, just little bitty plugs. And I potted these around May the 1st, and it's currently mid to late July. So, and these are a couple of weeks past peak. So by the first week of July, certainly into the second week of July, these looked absolutely awesome. They were starting to bloom at the very end of June, but you can figure about 8 weeks to get a perennial plug on average to this size. Some will do it faster, some are going to be slower, and that varies plant to plant quite a bit. But I mean, just from a plug that's about 2 inches tall, you can get a finished perennial in that size. So sometimes that's helpful to know when you're trying to plan, like, if you want to have a fall sale on October the 1st, then when might you get your perennial plugs in to plant and have them ready by an October the 1st sale date. So just using that as an example, something like this could be helpful for you. So that's the Veronica. It's a Speedwell, but like I said, you can apply this to the vast majority of perennials that grow about this rate, give or take a couple of weeks' time. Now, this is a Crepe Myrtle, and I've had to tilt my camera up just to get the whole thing into the frame, but this has grown this much this year, and you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, but I can show you right here, exactly where my hand is where I pruned this down to late winter before I potted these up. And I showed you guys these when we were doing Crepe Myrtles and talked about those, and I had about 300 of these to start with, and we've sold about 70% of these Crepe Myrtles. This particular variety is a Dynamite. It came off patent, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, And it's an awesome variety of crepe myrtle with a red bloom, and it's got just a spectacular appearance about it through early summer, even into the early fall. It's a really, really, really nice crepe myrtle, but unless you're dealing with a particularly dwarf variety, you can expect to get this kind of growth off of a crepe myrtle during one growing season. And this thing will probably grow, you know, a little bit more. It'll bloom some more at least and just continue to fill out. So if I have any of these left over for next year, I'll pot these up probably into 5-gallon pots, and they'll be gigantic for next year. But anyway, just wanted to show you that. That's probably put on at least 3 feet of growth, if not 3.5 feet of growth in just this one growing season. And that brings us out to our mum field. And if you follow our channel at all, you know this is a brand new thing to us this year, our first attempt at growing mums. And overall, this is week 7 since I potted the little plugs. You know, they've grown from these little bitty 2-inch tall plugs to this in 7 weeks. And we still got, I don't know, 6 weeks or so left for them to grow. So they're going to continue to grow, get bigger and bigger. And I'm really pleased overall with how well this has gone. Let me show you a few of them up a little closer. Now, generally speaking, when we look out here at my mom field layout, each row is a different variety. So sometimes these pairs of rows, they're all the same variety, but for the most part, they're different varieties. So I bought a lot of different varieties of mums, this being my first year, because I wanted to try to figure out which ones do really well in my climate and in my environment and which ones don't. So I have 16 rows of mums out here, and so far I've identified 2 that I'm not going to try again next year. Now, that being said, that means that I found 14 that at least so far I really like. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. So this is just flipping the camera around the other way, going right back out here. And this is 2 different varieties. And here's a good example right here. Okay, so this is a variety and this is a different variety. And you can see they have a very different growth habit. Now, I love both of these. They both look fantastic, but you can just see, just on average, going all the way down, these have a more round shape to them at this point than these do. And that's okay, because these look really nice as well. This is not a good or bad thing, but it's just kind of highlighting, like every other plant that you grow, there are differences between all of the varieties. And just because you have 2 different varieties of mums doesn't mean that the only difference in them is going to be the color. Their growth habit's different, their growth rate is different, and even the shape of the foliage, individual leaves, and even coloration varies slightly from plant to plant. Now, that being said, from a distance, they basically look all the same. You can see some slightly different color and shading here. You have kind of what I'll just call light green and dark green in these 2 rows. And my daughter even says that this row here, she says from a distance and at a certain time of day that it even looks slightly blue. Just very interesting how they do that. But let me show you just an example of a mom that I won't be growing again. Now, this particular variety right here, I don't even know the name of it, but it's a red variety of mom. Look at it sitting side by side with whatever this one is. Now, you see how this one's kind of straggly looking, and when I first started growing these, you know, 2 weeks in, this particular variety was overall the largest one out here by a lot. But what they have done is they've gotten a little bit leggy, they've gotten a little bit gangly looking, and they're even starting to bud already. And it's only late July, and that's too early for these to be setting their buds. In fact, they're going to be showing color here pretty soon. And at this late point in the mom growing season, there are some things that you can do about this if they're doing this right after you pot them in the first couple of weeks. But this late, there's nothing to be done about it. So, you know, these are basically going to be a loss. And if you look around out here, this is the worst looking plant that I have out here, is this entire row. You know, go all the way down the row of this particular variety here. They started out growing fastest, but they've turned out to look the worst. So I'm going to put that on my list of do not buy those again. But I got all these other ones out here that look great. So, you know, one variety loss, I'm not even going to worry about it, especially my first year growing. And I'm going to just let them grow out and, you know, see how they do. Who knows? I may be able to sell some of them on the very first week or something that will open. But for right now, I'm just going to say that I don't like them. They don't look good, but we'll see. Now, this variety here is a different one. It's an orange variety, and it's doing a similar thing to the ones that I just showed you with the red, in that they're starting to set buds and starting to show some color already. They're a little bit further along even in that process than the red ones are. I won't be doing these again. You know, I've tried to figure out what's going on, check with people who know about this stuff. And, you know, really the only reason that moms are going to try to bloom early is if they get cold nights, which we have had absolutely nothing of the sort. It can be caused by insect problems. It can possibly even be caused by other stresses, like your fertilizer situation is out of whack, or maybe over or under watering. But those things all seem to be in place, and the evidence for that is that all the other moms out here look great. So they're not setting buds, and they're not doing things they're not supposed to be doing. So we're gonna nix this one from the list, and then the red one over there that I showed you. So all in all, I'm really, really happy with how this is going. I mean, like 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. And it's just, to me, it gets stressful when you see something not going right, because you think, if it's not going right with that one, and I'm watering these all the same, they're all getting the same sun exposure, the same fertilization process, does that mean that all the other ones are about to go to crap too? No, it does not mean that. There's, you know, I think out of 800 moms that I have out here, I think there's 3 or maybe 4 that have not grown really at all, like this one, and who knows why. It's not from anything that I can tell. It's got plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer. The dripper's working great. There's another one of those right here. And, you know, who knows why it has stayed small, but I'm just not going to worry about it, because we're talking about such a small percentage of the overall moms, 3 or 4 in the whole patch. I don't even care. So between the evergreens, the crepe myrtles, the perennials, and the moms, just like they should be doing, it's summer, it's hot, and they're all growing like crazy. But there's a lot of things that you have to keep an eye on every day. You don't have to spend hours and hours picking at your plants every day, but you just have to monitor their growth progress and their health as they grow, just to make sure that everything is on track as you think it can be and as you think it should be. So today, I just wanted to give y'all kind of an update on what's going on out here, show you the progress. Overall, I'm super, super pleased with the moms and everything else. So far, it's been a great summer. We got a lot of hot days left. It's just late July. We're right here in the heart of the summer. So, you know, 6 weeks left of 95 to 100 degree days, most days. So always thankful when we get an afternoon thunderstorm to cool things off, but such is life in the nursery in the summer. Well, guys, I just wanted to update y'all on some growth today. I appreciate y'all being here every week. Appreciate y'all watching. I love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.